Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shame to Shine. I am so happy to be here today with Merilee Smith. Merilee is a speaker, a mindset and leadership coach, and actually hosts lovely events. I've gotten to be a part of one that was on sparking your inner leader. So she just has some fabulous offerings, and I'm really, really excited for her to share her story today. So thank you for coming on, Merilee, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm completely energized. It's been a little bit over a year since I first met you, and I just love you, and I love the fact that we can, really kind of partner on this. So thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So let's dive in with the Shame to Shine story that you're going to share today. Will you start to walk us through a little bit of the more of the shame portion that you want to talk about?
Um, sure. So, and it's really about, the journey to where I am today and also why I do what I do. It's truly my deep why. It's my purpose and my passion. Um, and it all started, I would really say, so I became a mom earlier than I expected, early into our marriage, and I decided it was pivoting my career at that time and was going back for my master's, and I had been studying emotional intelligence, which I had never heard of before. And I remember sitting in the classroom and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like this is why some of the behaviors and the patterns that I had experienced growing up, like this is it, right? This is why people are the way they are in my family. And, not to speak negatively, but at the same time, like some of them are very helpful behaviors. And at the end of the day, what just gets the theme, it's a lot of it when I look back at my patterns and specifically at that moment was perfectionism, right? Really feeling like we have to constantly be on, we have to be perfect. Um, you know, Being messy is not acceptable. These are all messages that I heard growing up, right? If you can't, you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean, like resting meant lazy.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it right, then you shouldn't try at all. Like those were some of the messages I had heard from my mom, who was amazing and wonderful and classy, and at the same time, kind of embodied all of that. And so when that really truth bomb hit me, and then I realized, oh, I was repeating some of those same behaviors with my young family, and they weren't always behaviors that I really enjoyed. And so it was really at that mission, that point where I drew the line, and it was my mission to say I'm going to break these patterns and I'm going to create a different story for my family. um, and I say that too because the shame piece of it was I really wasn't it. I looked good on the outside, right? Like I had a great husband, I had a daughter, I was getting my master's, but I was really struggling on the inside because I knew that there had to be more. And I felt like I was never enough, right? And I felt almost like I was suffocating.
Mhm.
Um, and so when I decided to really put that stake in the ground, that's when I really dove into emotional intelligence and some additional tools just to really understand what really drives our thoughts, our behaviors, and our emotions, and how we really, once we get off of that autopilot, we can make a conscious choice to shift those behaviors, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Oh man, that is such gold that you shared. There are really two massive things here. One, the story of perfectionism that I think so many audience members will relate to, and that has come up actually in multiple interviews with
Hmm.
women of feeling like whatever the source of shame was, it was somehow clouded within perfectionism where it took a while to even identify because the story to self is I'm not good enough. And even the feeling of needing help for feeling like that is like you can heap more shame onto that of like I should be able to even figure out
Oh
my
my
own
gosh, yeah.
well-being and I should be grateful for what I have and all of the shame around even feeling like why is this hard? Why do I not feel like I'm enough? Did you experience that at all?
Uh, Absolutely. I mean, and that so resonates. So you'd mentioned, some of the events I do. I just got done doing my fifth, what I call my petite retreats, and it's really an afternoon for women to come together and just reconnect or connect, reset, and just really get present with themselves and learn and grow together. And so these are some of the topics we talked about on a Friday. It's one of those what you just said really resonated because, you know, whether you're listening to a podcast or if you're a growth-minded woman out there, right? You're listening to, you're reading books and you're doing all sorts of things to improve yourself, right? Like we're always kicking the goalpost, right? But so we know no is a complete sentence. We should be setting boundaries. We know we should be putting an oxygen mask. Like we know all of the things. We know we should be giving ourselves grace, and yet we still do it, right?
Yeah.
And then what you just said, right? Then we judge ourselves for judging ourselves. Like we shouldn't judge ourselves, and then we judge ourselves for judging yourselves, right? It's like, and it's an exhausting
Yeah.
cycle,
Mhm.
100%. So
Mhm.
right.
Yes. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. And then having the other part that's really empowering is that moment of deciding this is a generational thing that's like coming down from your own mother and probably her mother, or maybe your your father's mother, etc. And then also from culture generally of what the role of women is in society.
Yep.
So that is a lot to decide of, like, not necessarily I'm going to swim upstream, but I'm going to swim in a different stream, or I'm going to maybe there's another analogy that you have that fits with this.
Well, I mean, what really comes to mind there is, it's we have so many superpowers as women. But there were three that have been really game changing for me, and I talked about them on Friday, and I talk about them all the time, and they are the gift of self-awareness. That day when I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, whew, oh, I'm repeating these patterns, like, ooh, right? So self-awareness is such a gift, right? It's the start of everything. The next one is acceptance. And I like to say either radical acceptance or empowered acceptance. It's not passive acceptance, right? So what you just said, right? Really understanding and getting curious and not judging yourselves like, huh, oh yeah, I just said that or I did that or I'm shaming myself, huh? Not beating ourselves up for it, but like really getting curious about where that is and accepting the story for what it is with that neutrality, right? Not beating ourselves up, not judging ourselves, because when we get to that point, that's truly when we can do the third superpower and make a conscious choice of who we want to be and really want moving forward. And that is so powerful to be able to get to that place of full empowered acceptance, and to know that you always get to choose whoever you want to be at any given, even through the most hardest times. And so this is emotional agility. So this is the level up from emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is all about being aware of our thoughts and our emotions and how they impact our behaviors and also on others. Emotional agility is not the forced positivity. It's not blowing unicorns and rainbows up our bed. It's not pretending. It's not saying I'm fine when it's really not fine.
Yeah.
It's truly like this is a really hard moment right now. Like September for me was hard because it was 10 years since my mother passed. And that took me down harder than I thought. No matter how much, time has passed or how much healing I think I've done, I was able to be aware of it, accept it for what it is, and then allow myself some time, consciously choose to allow myself time to lead myself through that, right? So no matter, stress is never going away, right? But it's all about the amount of time that we spend there is more it gets more reduced, right? It gets lesser and lesser, or the intensity, because we're evolving, right? We're getting a higher consciousness or perspective, or even to say, what did I learn from that? Right? Even though maybe that didn't go well, that I didn't get that client or that presentation didn't go well, or I didn't get the job or I got let go. Okay, yeah, that sucked. Allow yourself to embrace the suck for a while. And then also, okay, no matter what step I take, I'm gonna learn from it, right?
Mm. Mm. I really like too how you said that in September you made the conscious choice to give yourself time, where it sounds like it doesn't always have to be I make the conscious choice to be grateful or to change my mindset or to see the benefit, which I think you would describe as the unicorns, the rainbows and unicorns. That's like it doesn't have to be that, but it can the conscious choice can be really one of self-nurturing and self-love. So there's just so much wisdom and beauty in that. It gives me chills. It gives me chills. And even the purpose of this series is to offer the initial moments of self-awareness that you talked about, because that can be a snap of the finger, the self-awareness, or even hearing from others, the possibility that healing is there or that you can be your best self. So that instant is is also like such a beautiful part of the journey. And then there is it doesn't have to be a long time and it doesn't have to be arduous to go through a healing process, but it also isn't necessarily a snap of the fingers where we then expect ourselves to heal really quickly. And so there's a lot of grace in how you've done that. Has that been an iterative process of your healing, of kind of learning how to give yourself that grace?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I didn't expect September to take me down as much as it did, really. And and I'm also getting ready to launch my first, I say my first official like signature keynote on perfectionism. And so the part of that story has some of that upbringing, right? Some of the shame story to it. And so, realizing that it's not a one and done when it comes to healing, right? It comes up at different times, right? And so I think it was all divine. I do believe, I'm definitely a firm believer that everything happens at that time it's supposed to. And so I believe it all was happening at divine timing in September. It allowed me that time to just be and really think about what other further healing do I need to do, and I reached out for some help because at the end of the day, you know, journaling is great and it's super powerful, but sometimes that's another thing I would say is compassion and um, is always the gateway to hope and, moving forward, right? And also asking for help. Asking for help is another superpower, right? We know that as women, we have to have it all together, or, it's a weakness, or I don't want to impose on somebody else. And at the end of the day, it can be such power to be able to reach out to somebody as a thinking partner, somebody to bounce something off of, somebody to really reflect back to you what you're going through, because it's really hard when you're in the,
Mhm.
excuse my language, when you're in the shit, it's kind of hard to see it. So it's definitely an inner process and the compassion to know. I think as high, so I work with a lot of high achieving women. And I would say that you and I are both those, we are both high achieving women, is that we can be in that very black or white thinking, right? All or nothing, or right, it's a one and done, and now I'm moving on. Like what's next, right? We're always kicking the goalpost. And nope, nope, not at all, right? That compassion is actually going to be your gateway to so much.
Hmm. Ooh, that's beautiful. So another thing that perfectionists, I think, have in common is I would call it like maybe a irritability or a frustration with the parts that aren't perfect, where it's like kind of this sense of, oh, if I knew then what I know now, if I knew when I was 19 what I know now, I would have studied this, I would have put my money here, I would have moved here, I would have not dated that person. And in kind of like maybe rescript, I hope I'm not alone in this, rescript our lives into like what could be a perfect life and how tempting that is to stay in a fantasy of what if I was perfect then.
Mhm.
And and something that I have learned from you and that I've heard from you in talking about how this is your passion and your why is how you have learned to embrace this perfectionism that you have in yourself and see it as like I am a high achieving woman and kind of owning that part and then also softening around your own self standards and finding different ways to have that compassion and love for yourself. And so I would love it if you could speak to that a little bit for listeners who are like, I would like to just change that part of myself and not have to deal with it anymore. But how the integration can almost lead to, like in your
Yeah.
sense, your
Yeah.
purpose. Mhm.
Yeah, and I love that you use the word integration because I use that a lot as well. So I have, based on some of the work I've done, I've created this framework I call the inner board members in our head. And so there are seven of them, all the way from defeat, judgment, rationalization, compassion, connection, opportunity, and at the end of the day, our inner leader. And so defeat is that, oh, man, what if they find me out? What if they find me out? What if I can't hold it all together? What if I drop the ball, right? What if, I could have been, or why didn't I do that whenever I was 19? Why didn't I study harder, right? And I carried it to my shame story was I didn't actually. I was Miss BC's get degrees and let's have fun.
Yeah.
And so whatever, but I also had that driver in me. And so when I got my first job at 23, and it was with a pretty prominent company, I didn't realize how much I didn't realize until later how much I struggled in that with confidence because I didn't really believe I deserved it because I didn't work hard enough because I didn't get A's, right? So there's the perfectionism. All that to say, these voices where I feel defeated or the judger, like, why aren't you doing it better? Why aren't you doing it faster? Why aren't you doing it? Why wasn't that perfect? Right. We could even judge ourselves for this interview right now, right? Not being perfectly on point with what I might really want to say. All of those, they're all part of us. They
Yeah.
are not going away.
Yeah.
They are who we are. And that's amazing because guess what? They all have a purpose and they all have a job, right? When I'm feeling defeated or I'm feeling kind of that victim mentality, like, oh gosh, that didn't go well, or I didn't, that client didn't sign up for that. It's just, or I'm just feeling overwhelmed. It's a sign for me to say, oh, okay, defeat, you're sitting at the board table in my head. Okay, what do you have to say? What do you need? Oh, you know what? You need compassion. Hey, compassion. Defeat needs a little compassion.
Mhm.
Or as a high achieving woman, guess what? We can still have ambitious goals and challenge ourselves
Mhm.
and also with compassion at the same time.
Love it.
And that is incredibly powerful. Because so for my keynote, I've been working on it the majority of the summer, and then I work on some other things, and then it's like, oh, why don't you have that done yet? Why isn't it out there?
Mhm.
Well, part of it is because I needed to go through September and I didn't even realize it to make it even more powerful. But compassion also would say, it's okay, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, right? So I say they're all part of us and we embrace them. And guess what? When we learn and we're aware of them, then we get to pick and choose which ones we want to listen to and which ones we don't. And there's no good or bad at any of them. They all have a purpose and they all have a value, right? So
So much wisdom in that. And there's really this beautiful sense of how much power we activate within ourselves when we accept ourselves. Do you feel that way with yourself and with your clients, that self-acceptance like unlocks
oh
more
my
power and
God.
energy?
Oh my gosh, without question.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, we are the only ones, and another one we hear on memes and quotes, and we know we truly are the only ones that can create our own happiness. And when somebody asks me what the definition of success, the definition of success for me is to be able they have this awareness and acceptance and the conscious choice. Because I know that no matter what happens, I'm going to be able to, I've got me, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty amazing, and I'm not perfect, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to be able to lead myself through this.
Mm.
Whether that's in some of the tools I already have, whether that's what I know, hey, it's time to phone a friend or reach out to a therapist or whatever that might be. And that's the mental wellness piece of it, right? And we know that we're in a very stress is never going away, but we're in a very high stress time. And so to be able to have these tools, that's as a speaker and as a coach, I get very passionate about, organizations. Like if you want your people to be successful, give them the tools to be able to manage the pressure and the stress, right? To feel confident, to feel accepting of themselves. That's when they're going to show up as their best. That's when they're going to perform, right?
Love it. Absolutely. Well, I am just so grateful for you sharing all of this wisdom. And the audience has probably heard you have some incredible language to be able to give give voice to what all is happening. And sometimes that naming is like the perfect tool that you need. And then you also have the experience and you're able to hold space for people going through that self-acceptance process. So for those who are like really vibing with you, we'll make sure to have all your links where they can follow you. And if there's anything in particular, any final messages or things to look out for that you have coming up, please share.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. I guess what I felt before I do share that, I do
Yeah.
want to say, when we talk about from shame to shine, that
Yeah.
is the shine, what I just said, right? The shine is to be able to, when you can look at yourself and your story, not of shame, but a place of pride and empowerment because of how much you have leaned in and you have allowed yourself to give yourself grace space to grow and to evolve. To me, that's the shine. Um, yeah, so these petite retreats, I am located in Pittsburgh. I do have a vision of taking those on the road and potentially even doing some virtual ones. If you're in Pittsburgh though, definitely stay. follow me on social, stay tuned. I'll be doing more of those. In addition, I do offer what's called your Spark session. So I do have an assessment different than a personality assessment. This is purely around your mindset and currently based on who you are, how your mindset is driving your energy and your stress levels and how you're showing up. And once you have that knowledge, that awareness, right, then you can kind of decide how you wanna lead that. So you could take the online assessment and then you get a 90-minute coaching debrief with me. So that is something that I'm always offering. You can certainly find it on my website and then also across social as well.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Merilee, so much for sharing all of your wisdom here. It's just such a pleasure connecting with you as always. And make sure everyone to follow Merilee, especially as she has shared this wisdom here and has so much language and tools to be able to go through that self-acceptance process and really unleash your shine. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I enjoy every moment. Thank you.